Kiss Me Deadly. Interesting title.
And the book isn't bad either. I think you'll enjoy it.
Hey Star Trek readers, welcome back to another episode of the Treklit Report, where I take a new release from Pocketbook's Star Trek line and do a video review of it. This week's novel is the latest Deep Space Nine novel from author David R. George III, The Long Mirage. I'm going to be doing something a little different with this review. I've been getting a lot of requests lately to do spoiler-free reviews of the novels. I'm going to offer a little bit of a compromise. The first half of this video will in fact be spoiler-free. However, the second half I will get into some spoilers about the novel. Now don't worry, I will have a warning when I'm going to launch into spoilers, giving you the opportunity, if you have not yet read the book, to stop watching and make sure that you're not caught unawares by any unexpected spoilers. I will, however, be talking about spoilers about books leading up to this one, so if you're not caught up on the Deep Space Nine relaunch or the post-Nemesis novels, that sort of thing, you may want to skip this video. If not, no worries. I won't be spoiling this novel in the first half, but I will be spoiling the general state of Treklit. David R. George has written numerous Star Trek novels over the years, covering quite a number of different Star Trek eras. His focus lately seems to have been the Deep Space Nine post-finale era, however. In his last DS9 novel, Ascendance, the entire Ascendant arc has finally been wrapped up, leaving the author room to carry the story forward from there. Some threads from those previous stories are followed up on here, most notably the huge false work that has been discovered in the Bajoran moon of Endala, which some people believe may be the leftovers of the construction project that created the Bajoran wormhole. That plays a huge role in this novel. Kira returns to the station from her extended stay in the wormhole and finds herself caught up in this debate between the people who believe that the prophets are divine and gods, and the Uhalavaru who believe that the prophets are simply aliens and not in fact gods. On the station, she of course finds Captain Ro and Altek Dans, who previously emerged from the wormhole in a prior novel. Kira and Altek Dans had kind of an extended romance during the time in which Kira was in the wormhole and found herself seemingly deep in Bajor's past under the name of Keeve Anora in the fall novel Revelation in Dust. The second storyline involves Nog's attempts to recover the Vic Fontaine program after it's seemingly damaged during an extended time spent running in a test unit in between the destruction of the old Deep Space Nine and the new DS9 coming online. In the program, Vic is missing and possibly in some sort of trouble, and it's up to Nog to recover him before the program is irreparably altered. In yet another storyline, Quark is attempting to track down Morn, who departed for places unknown shortly after the destruction of the old Deep Space Nine. Quark had been paying a private detective to help locate him, but is now skeptical of her progress and decides to take matters into his own hands. Finally, a fourth storyline has Odo recovering from an attack by the Ascendants in the previous DS9 novel and dealing with a new and unexpected development in the Gamma Quadrant. If this all sounds really complicated, it's because it is. David R. George has penned a very dense novel, much like we've come to expect from this particular author. Kudos to him, however. He does a great job in managing to keep all of the storylines coherent and presenting us with a really terrific novel. The Long Mirage continues one of Deep Space Nine's best qualities, an unflinching and uncompromising look at politics and religion, a topic that Star Trek as a whole generally tends to steer clear of. There are also some very interesting philosophical questions raised in the novel, and they are tackled in true Star Trek fashion. While there are a few things that I wish this novel focused on that it does not, the story's focus on characters and relationships make this one a winner for me. Okay, I'm afraid now is spoiler time. If you have not read this novel and do not wish to be spoiled, I'd suggest turning this video off now. You can always come back to it after you've read the book if you so choose, but I will be getting into spoilers for The Long Mirage from this point on. The best thing about The Long Mirage is how it moves the story forward significantly. The discussion of faith versus reason is very interesting, and the discoveries made about the false work orbiting Bajor provide a lot of fodder for both true believers of the prophets and the Ohalavaru who do not believe that the prophets are divine. Indeed, the revelation that Altek Dans is not in fact from Bajor's deep past, but an alternate universe is something that I kind of thought the characters might have thought of before they actually realize it in the book. I certainly had thought that it was a possibility previously, and I'm quite surprised that the characters didn't bring it up sooner. So how about all of you who have read it? Did you see that one coming, or was that a surprise to you? I'm really curious. Please comment below. Noggin Candlewood's attempt to rescue Vic Fontaine is a very fun part of this novel as well. I suspect that a lot of readers might agree with Candlewood in his assertion that Vic Fontaine is just a hologram, and you know, him losing his memories or having to be reset isn't that big of a tragedy. However, I do think that many longtime fans of DS9 would side with Nog, believing that Vic is a person in his own right and worthy of that sort of consideration. In any case, his value to Nog is certainly very apparent, and Nog is a flesh and blood person who we care about. So whether or not you think Vic Fontaine is sentient or not, he is a very important part in the lives of many people who we care about. The ending of the story was particularly interesting in the questions that it raised about Vic Fontaine's sentience. Is he actually not sentient, or is he faking it to get out of being charged? Which I thought was a really interesting way to take the novel. The sentience and rights of artificial life forms is of course well-trod ground in Star Trek, but nevertheless it is quite an interesting examination here. I also really enjoyed Quark and Ro's adventure to track down the private investigator that Quark had hired to locate Morn. Really, the trip serves more as just a backdrop to explore the characters of Quark and Ro and their relationship, which I actually did appreciate. It was really interesting to see that addressed, especially after Ro had been involved with Altek Dans for so long. While Ro and Quark have had a sort of casual thing going on for some time, it turns out that Quark is taking it a lot more seriously than Ro had been, which is something that Ro regrets. Surprisingly, I'm actually quite sad to see this relationship at the place that it is. I might be in the minority on this, but I actually kind of enjoyed Quark and Ro together. I really liked the dynamic the two of them had, and I have to admit that as I was reading this novel, I was kind of rooting for them to get back together, and I'm kind of sad that that didn't happen. And finally, Odo's story takes a really fascinating turn when a Jem'Hadar warship starts heading towards the wormhole in the Gamma Quadrant. It turns out that the ship is carrying refugees, I suppose, who wish to leave the Dominion and start a new life in the Alpha Quadrant. This part of the story seems to be mostly set up for conflicts to come. I'm really interested in seeing where this story goes, and I really hope that that particular plot thread is picked up in the future. I also do have to say I really enjoyed the brief reunion between Kira and Odo. This is a relationship that I think played out really well in Deep Space Nine. I just recently did a rewatch of the whole series, and Kira and Odo really are a special part of that, and it was really great to see them reunited again. So in conclusion, The Long Mirage finally continues the story of Deep Space Nine beyond the Ascendant arc, and I for one am very happy to see more forward movement in the various storylines on Deep Space Nine. It's sadly quite a long time in between novels, so the pace of the story has seemed a little bit glacial, so it really is great to see more forward movement and more development for these characters. I do also have to say it's great to see Vic back, and the way in which David R. George was able to tie the Vic and Morn storylines together was really unexpected and quite a lot of fun. And my final rating for DS9 The Long Mirage is 4 out of 5 Vegas Mobster Thugs. Also, be sure to check out the episode of Literary Treks in which we talk about The Long Mirage. Host Bruce Gibson and I get a chance to talk to the author, David R. George, about his process in writing the novel.
You know, somebody trying to prove the existence of God, the non-existence of God on Earth today, it seems like that's the analogy, but it's not really, because with the Bajorans, it's a really interesting sort of question to ask, because we know for a fact that the Bajoran prophets, or the wormhole aliens, however you want to call them, they exist. I mean, you could try and talk about God with somebody on Earth, and somebody can say they don't, that God doesn't exist, and somebody can say that he does, but you can't prove either way, right? But the Bajorans, they know that they're gods or those aliens exist. So it's not just a question of existence, it's a question of what's their nature.
You can find a link to that episode in the description below, or click the card to listen to the episode on YouTube. So what do you all think? Did you enjoy The Long Mirage? Where do you want to see the story go from here? Are you kind of mad that we didn't get any Cisco in this story? Sound off in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Be sure to follow Kertrats Productions on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram. Links are all in the description below. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.